Hi, and welcome to this presentation. My name is Guy Bartram. I'm the Director of our Cloud Provider Partner Marketing, and today I'm going to talk about Sovereign Cloud and version 2 of Sovereign Cloud, how we have adjusted Sovereign Cloud in our new world with Broadcom, and what we're seeing with our partners. So as usual, let's start with disclaimer. I'm not going to read through the points, but the general gist of it is any information in this presentation is not to be used for incorporating into any contract, and we don't have any commitment or obligation over the terms presented within this presentation. So let's start by looking at what I'm going to talk about today. I want to dispel some of the sovereign FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we have heard from the market, and really provides an update on our sovereign, what we're calling V2 initiative. So let's start with some of the fear. Customers are concerned and scared about increasing attacks, cybersecurity, and ransomware. This is not uncommon. Lots of customers have been hit very hard with ransomware, and there is a fear over data security, particularly as data is, an ever-growing asset for companies and becoming more and more of a monetizable asset, which companies, is core to their business. Customers are also fearing about, sensitive data leaking out into the wrong hands and what they could use with that data. Disruptions they're concerned about, critical services going down, and the fact that there is a high reliance on cloud and infrastructure running in someone else's data center. And as we've seen, some of the bigger cloud providers with outages has serious impacts for our customers. Cost lock-in, the inability to kind of move because you are so tightly entwined to the facilities and capabilities that a particular cloud provides, and hence you become very, very reliant on those capabilities and maybe managed services as well, to the point that you're so dependent on them that you can never walk away from them. Uncertainty. Uncertainty about ever-changing rules and regulations. We have seen many, many rules and regulations come from the EU in particular in the last few years. And this is a job for customers to keep up with, to make sure they're compliant and to keep compliant for the future. Uncertainty about skills and resources. This has been a genuine problem for our customers. Making sure they have the skills and resources to meet their future investments and future strategies around cloud. Vendor longevity. In the economic climate we're in, we've seen lots of acquisitions recently. VMware bought by Broadcom. There is uncertainty around that, and hopefully I'll dispel some of that today. And sovereign cloud, what is it? So many people say different things about sovereign cloud. How does a customer know what is sovereign and what isn't sovereign? And lastly, doubt. Doubt around longevity of a vendor or a service. Will it change, go bust? Will it be acquired? Choice. Do I really need choice and flexibility? Am I going to be paying a premium for it? Why is that going to be good for my business? Doubt about sovereign cloud. How can it really help my company? And doubt about control. Obviously, when you're running your stuff in someone else's data center, we've all heard of the big hyperscalers, but many customers haven't heard of the smaller CSPs. And would they have a level of confidence and control over sovereign cloud providers that they potentially haven't heard of before? So, VMware Cloud, Sovereign Cloud, the evolution, version 2. So let's start with what's new. I mean, there is a growing demand from all industries, not just heavily regulated sectors. And sovereign cloud is now a confusing market with ambiguous offers from hyperscalers on sovereignty, and really just a lot of confusion about what it is. The reinforcement of VMware's differentiation with the sovereignty in our version 2 criteria. So we've changed from like a 20-point scale to now a 10-point scale. And that 10 points of sovereignty crosses, the three categories: data sovereignty, operational sovereignty, and infrastructure sovereignty. We have a renewed partner focus. I'm very pleased to, announce that we have the Broadcom Advantage program for our cloud service providers. We have about 100 Pinnacle partners, about 600 Premier partners, and about 1,500 odd registered partners. And Pinnacle and Premier partners are partners who mostly all of the partners have transacted before with VMware and come over from the old Partner Connect program. And of course, the ones that were sovereign before are still sovereign. So we're really pleased to announce that we have over 60 partners today, sovereign partners, really representing the largest sovereign platform in the world, who are delivering services today with VMware since the Broadcom acquisition. And of course, there is increased value for end clients. Really things like innovation. We've all heard of VMware Private AI. When sovereign AI is the sovereign deployment of a private AI instance, and really that is innovation without compromise. Data security, privacy, choice of deployment, whether you want it dedicated, shared, or managed. All our cloud models are adopted to sovereign cloud demands and cover various cloud specialities, industry clouds, government clouds, defense clouds, and still maintain that portability and mobility as a core premise of choice and flexibility, which sovereign cloud has. And that's really done by the fact that our portfolio is now VMware Cloud Foundation, and every single VMware Cloud Foundation license that is being sold has the ability to be portable. It can be taken to a service provider or taken from one service provider to another service provider by a customer, and participating service providers are signing up for this. So you have that choice and flexibility to move between providers, and you're not going to be penalized from it, but you're not going to be penalized for it. Our criteria covers 5 key principles, and that hasn't changed since acquisition. First and foremost, it's about ownership over the cloud infrastructure. The ownership must be by an entity within the sort of sovereign jurisdiction. And this is a really important point. It's all about the jurisdiction. The second one is about jurisdictional control. The need to have complete jurisdictional control and authority over your data within a sovereign provider. And that sovereign provider is not influenced or forced to disclose anything by a foreign jurisdiction. Third, foreign entities have no access to this data, which I've said. The data is within the sovereign cloud provider, and sensitive data must be restricted out of moving out controlled domains. So we have the concept of sovereign domains within sovereign providers. Think about it like geofencing, if you like. Fourth, this data needs to be secure, obviously, and that needs to extend across storage and processing of data. So when I say all data, I mean metadata, log files associated with data, support files associated with data, operational data. All of this stuff must stay within the sovereign jurisdiction on sovereign soil. And the last one, which is often overlooked, is operations and management. Sovereign cloud needs to be operated by sovereign citizens. And in many cases, depending on the level of sovereignty required and security required, these people must be security cleared. That means they're background checked and can only be national citizens. So these key principles are covered by 3 control areas, which are data sovereignty, operational sovereignty, and infrastructure sovereignty. And these are what our partners now have to self-attest to, this 10-point attestation, for which we've got 3 key controls in data, 3 in operational, and 4 in infrastructure. And the main component of sovereign cloud is obviously the infrastructure itself. From a VMware perspective, VMware Cloud Foundation is the core platform. It is the only platform that our Broadcom Advantage program partners can actually purchase from VMware for their customers. And that's great because Cloud Foundation is a private cloud infrastructure. It's a totally able to be totally isolated um, environment, which it has all the attributes and facilities necessary for a private cloud. So delivering private cloud and wrapping around your own security, your own services around continuous monitoring, networking, compliance, key management, data protection, encryption. These are what the service provider delivers around our core product, which is Cloud Foundation. So that's what's new in the Broadcom program. Instead of having 90 odd products that you could use as a service provider, you now basically have one, and it's Cloud Foundation. And there are some add-ons to it, but mainly the product is Cloud Foundation. Um, and this is also complemented with what we call sovereign ecosystem partners. So these are partners that have attested to kind of being able to operate and deploy in a sovereign environment. So they can be like totally air gapped, for example, and not connected to any SaaS solutions or billing solutions, have in-country support, those type of things. So they really align to the sovereign criteria as well, and also have been technical alliance partners within VMware, and integrate into the Cloud Foundation stack. So imagine you've got Cloud Foundation, you've got these ecosystem providers, and you've got the sovereign cloud provider with their infrastructure, their operations, their services, their personnel. This really leads to a very robust offering, where the CSP can deliver even more advanced services as well and become much more specialized in modern apps, in sovereign AI, all within the sovereign boundary, creating more differentiation, more value, and obviously more revenue to the partner. So altogether, this is a very comprehensive, industry-leading position for CSPs to be able to deliver upon and customers to benefit from. And sovereign clouds lead to certain specializations for CSPs, as we've seen with industrial cloud in hyperscalers. People do want a certain amount of capability out of the box, and many CSPs likewise have grown multi-vertical competencies, particularly with sovereign. And sovereign tends to address larger, more complex customers. So there's significant advantages with CSPs working with them. And you can start really, we're looking at the smallest amount of complexity, and the lowest kind of workload risk being industrial clouds, where industry specific regulations and standards need to be adhered to. So things like in Europe, the European Banking Authority guidelines for the banking sector, European Medicine Agency regulations for pharmaceutical, um, FIPS for security and interoperability of information systems within federal in the US. NIS2 is a newer regulation in Europe, now including downstream suppliers and increased cybersecurity requirements. So this could have a big impact for customers who are kind of trying to do it themselves and do it alone. You're much better off going to a CSP who has all of these suppliers in place and has pre-vetted all this stuff, pre-certified their sovereign service, and have also the skills and resources and services to support your verticals. And as you go up the sort of complexity and regulation, you get more complex cloud, harder to maintain, gets harder to innovate in as well because of the processes and the adherence to process that needs to be controlled. And government clouds, they layer in things like operational clearance, perhaps, and operational sovereignty as workloads need to contain ever more sensitive information. And then there's additional risk and compliance standards required to wrap process around that. And then at the furthest end of sovereign cloud is the secret level and defense, where services exist to protect against threats from national threats to national security. So these have the highest level of security and operation requirements of all, like air gapping and total isolation. And the VMware Sovereign Cloud portfolio runs across all of these particular offerings or verticals. We've got service providers delivering secret We've got service providers delivering gov clouds. We've got a lot of service providers delivering many industrial verticals, and having specializations with that. So our sovereign cloud providers provide, I think, one of the greatest choice and diversity of capability in sovereign. And let's look at the kind of the key message here. Our sovereign clouds are native sovereign clouds. And when you look at what we hear in the market around hyperscale partners like commercial hyperscalers saying they are sovereign, they are not. They are non-native entities. They don't have data sovereignty. The best they can do is provide external keys and control over your keys to a customer. They don't have jurisdictional control. Their data centers may be, as they are in the UK. You've got instances of hyperscalers in the UK, but they're fundamentally US companies and under US jurisdiction, wherever they are in the world. Operational sovereignty, they do have now, they've improved this. They have some locally operated capabilities, and often hiring local entities to manage this. And they do have resiliency within the country, so that does provide it's a residency within that country for resilience. So a certain amount of operational sovereignty can be provided by a public hyperscaler. But then we look at the infrastructure sovereignty, full portability. You can't detach yourself from a hyperscaler once you've started using their services. Everything else will be different wherever you go. And in many cases, you would have to recode. Security certifications are going to be different between a local provider that is, ramped up to dealing with local certifications and local specializations versus one that is much more global. Capabilities like zero trust with logical network segregation, that is done very differently in a hyperscale and very ineffectively compared to what has always been native with microsegmentation within vSphere and NSX. And the ability to isolate, and that's really important, that air-gapped environment. Hyperscalers are not designed to be air-gapped, fundamentally designed to be joined to, the mega cloud. So all of the accounting goes up, all of the support goes up, all of the utilization goes up into some sort of cloud processing engine where bills and support and things like that are managed at Cloud Console. So very, very different kind of premise with a public hyperscaler, fundamentally a non-native, to a native sovereign cloud. And sovereign cloud v2, Broadcom is very keen on kind of making things simpler and scaling them out. And this is what we've done with sovereign cloud version 2. So we've gone from 20 points to 10 points, so simplified by 50%, if you like, keeping like the key, really important aspects of sovereign clouds there. And this provides then a self-attested workflow that a partner has to attest to. And there's like some clear differentiation here for our CSPs, with their capabilities that they can attest to. And what was interesting when we created the 20-point criteria is it did actually kind of align to the 20-point criteria that CISP in Europe created. Totally by accident, but we found out at a conference that we both had a 20-point criteria, and it was very, very similar. Like I said, we've taken that down to 10 now, but this is really taking a stab at making a standard within the industry that actually aligns with our organizations who are doing and similarly concerned with what sovereign is. And the 5 principles of sovereign cloud, are really implemented by unlocking the bundled service capability within inside VCF. And VMware Cloud Foundation comes in 3 different deployment models: the hosted private cloud, the managed private cloud, and the shared public cloud. Underneath, you have a VCF platform. For the hosted private cloud, that is a fully managed, fully hosted VCF instance for a customer, where the customer has the skills and resources to manage that environment. The cloud provider would complement that with sovereign services. The VCF managed private cloud is where the VCF instance has a platform across the top, which is our Cloud Director platform, um, where they can get self-service into that private instance. So it would be for customers who don't necessarily want to skill up in all of the VCF capabilities, but they will need to have that segregation physically and isolation. And then you have the shared public cloud, which is really shared VCF workload domains, where or dedicated workload domains per customer. But again, using Cloud Director and that self-service capability, so you can offer sovereign services through a portal for a customer to securely and safely consume either down into their dedicated clusters or down into a shared workload domain. And what we're really saying here is it's not necessarily a one size fits all. And that's really important. You need choice. Not all workloads are going to be mission critical and require, a dedicated private cloud. We want some test and dev workloads that will have to go into the shared public environment, for example. So really, when a customer is looking at this, there's an answer for kind of whatever they need, and it aligns to those five key areas and key principles of sovereign cloud. And quickly, just looking at the ecosystem, what you've got here is all of the ecosystem partners that we've worked with and certified with for all of the different kind of domains. So Kubernetes, data services, AI, ML, object storage, backup and disaster recovery vendors, and security and compliance. And we've done a number of kind of press releases in the past for these guys. We've got active deployments out there with these. uh, you know, the AI ML stuff comes pretty much packaged now with private AI. The data services is something that comes to our service providers as well with VCF and VCD. Kubernetes is integral in VCF. Object storage is available via VCD to object storage vendors and so forth. So really, I think what this slide kind of captures is the capability that is on offer, it just from an ecosystem partner perspective within the private sovereign cloud environment. You have everything you need there to do just as much and more than you can do in a hyperscale cloud with more control, more performance in many cases, a better cost optimization, and within all of the sovereign key principles. So, what are the outcomes for the CSPs? Well, I'm really proud to say that we've had now the Broadcom acquisition has happened, and we have the Broadcom Advantage program up and running. Um, and really proud to say that we're announcing now there are a huge number of Pinnacle partners and Premier partners, over 60 that are sovereign already. So they're out there showing that there is a significant sovereign presence. And as you can see from the map, it's pretty much global. There are huge amount of sovereign partners in the EU, but also in APJ. Those are really where the concentrations are. And over the last 3 years since we launched Sovereign Cloud, I think it's actually 4 years now. It's been a solid and growing market, and we wanted to make it easier for our partners to get to be to that sovereign standard and working with them on there. And we've invested, heavily in our solution portfolio and our programs to help partners kind of realize that sovereign capability, and also, we work with our sales to bring customers to them. And so, with VMware, our partners are getting the best kind of in class sovereign infrastructure. And this really, I think, counters the hyperscaler messaging with a CSP that can offer best in class solutions and able to meet all the 10 point criteria and the key elements of sovereignty. So, when you look at your hyperscale provider, customers need to understand that they're not meeting that 10-point criteria. And just by the nature of their design, they can't be a local sovereign cloud. They're not able to guarantee data will be processed and stored in local jurisdiction, whereas a partner, a CSP sovereign partner, on the other hand, are uniquely positioned to meet and offer data and operational sovereignty requirements. And the outcome for end clients, really, they're getting a sovereign cloud. And what does that mean? That they're getting improved data security and compliance. Um, this is a huge challenge for organizations. Data security is one huge challenge. Compliance is becoming another huge challenge. More and more regulation comes along. Multinational organizations have real challenges like understanding how they're going to deliver against that regulation. And this is where cloud providers could really help. They know the regulation, they know how it needs to be implemented. And in 99% of cases, they've already got standards in place to do it. Customers get protection for data access and integrity, really securing that access to sensitive data and preserving its integrity, maintaining data independence and mobility, giving customers the choice and independence to be able to move in and out of different cloud providers and migrate data anywhere as needed. And you can only do that when you've got a common platform beneath you. And VMware, some people say VMware is lock-in. It is a type of lock-in, yeah. But it is also one of the most prolific platforms globally, which means it's a logical choice to stay on because it enables you to move anywhere at any time. And with our cloud foundation licenses now, which have portability built into them, our participating providers who are signed up for license portability, they can actually take advantage of that and help customers realize their VCF investment by bringing the skills and resources to bear with the customer, but also then move that VCF instance into the service provider's sovereign environment without the customer having to repurchase the license. Best in class data sovereignty control, obviously protecting your data from foreign authorities and ensuring that all your data is protected, metadata, backup data, accounting data, etc. And the best value sovereign solutions. This is now VCF, the platform of choice, the platform of choice for customers to kind of bring their own keys to, and so keep that value, keep the skills they've got in VMware without having to go for a learning curve for another cloud architecture or endpoint. So altogether, a huge amount of benefits for customers that are, in a industry vertical or have requirements around their data processing and data storage that do align to sovereign principles. This is really important that sovereign cloud is there. It is available for our customers. It is provided by our best-in-class VMware providers who we've had long relationships with. These are big businesses, multinational businesses in many cases, with sovereignty in their locations, in their geos, providing the best-in-class service that they can. So to finish up, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me droning on about sovereign cloud. If you have any questions, please file them directly through your rep, and we will answer them as soon as we can. Thank you very much.